Hi everyone, we're back. We're here to share our paycheck routine with you. We do it once a week for 10 minutes every week. And we break it down to 3 parts, right, Jim?
Yep, and in that, we want to make sure that we are maximizing our savings, making sure that we're paying off all our expenses, incurring zero debt. We also want to make sure that any of the income and expenses that come in for that week, that they're categorized correctly on our budget. And then the last piece is we want to make sure that all that extra money that we're saving is invested properly. So let's get to it. All right, jumping into phase one. So phase one takes us zero time. It's all automated. Everything we do in phase one, which is all about saving first, paying ourselves first, investing in yourself. It's all what we talk about around. Our savings rate is always primary, and this is really where it starts, and this is where we get the numbers that we get is really from this piece of it. So first thing that we do is we get paid, which is great. We get a gross paycheck from our employer. We get paid every other week between the two of us, so we do this routine weekly. And the first thing that happens out of that gross paycheck when it hits is money is automatically diverted out of our gross paycheck pre-tax into our 401k and 403b account. I have one 401k, Cherie has a 401k and a 403b because she's got 2 jobs. So money is automatically diverted, contributions into that. We also I get an employer match, so I get that employer match, and that gets put into my traditional 401k as well. So all of the money so far is just in a traditional 401k or 403b. The next thing that happens is for my paycheck, I carry the benefits. So I have a health savings account because we have a high deductible plan, and that account is money. It's the best account you can have. If you don't know what it is and you have the ability to have it at your workplace, make sure you go watch the videos on HSA accounts and then go sign yourself up for one. So that account we fund out of my paycheck. We are maximizing that account for a family. It's $8,300 for 2024. So we're maximizing that out. So every 2 weeks, I'm contributing into that account and we are not touching that money. It's going to sit until we're 65 years old. So keep putting money into that. We're going to max it out every year. So the third thing that happens is the federal government now steps in and we have to pay federal taxes. We got to pay Medicare, Social Security. I have to pay the benefits out of my paycheck. So all of those kind of expenses from the government's perspective, and then for our insurance, our benefits that we have to pay for, goes out of that gross paycheck. And we're resulted with a net paycheck. So that net paycheck, the first thing that's done in that net paycheck is money is taken out automatically and funded into our Roth versions of our 401k and 403b. That's really where most of the contributions that we are putting into our 401k or 403b are into the Roth versions of it. We neglected to use Roth earlier on in our journey, and now we are heavy in that. And most of the money actually is coming out of our net paycheck, and we are maximizing those accounts. So we're maximize those throughout the year. And then the next thing that happens is the resulting portion of the net paycheck goes into what we call our triage account, which is a brick and mortar checking account, which we've had for
20 years.
20 years, yeah, the same bank. We used to have multiple accounts with them. We used to have savings accounts, everything else. We got rid of all that because it's no interest. You don't really get anything. So we have this triage account, which money comes in, and then we use this account for money going out. Money doesn't sit there long. The only thing that sits there is a threshold, and our threshold is $5,000. Seems like a lot of money, but we have some significant bills that come in throughout the year. Every quarter, we have a $3,000 property tax bill. We have our home insurance auto drafted out of there. Propane. We have life insurance drafted out of there. So there's certain things that come through that we actually have to have enough reserve there because the bills sometimes are so high. Our propane can be $1,500 and get auto drafted from there. So if we had that and a $3,000 tax bill at the same time, you're cutting it really close out of that account. So we keep $5,000 there as a threshold. So all the money that comes in from our net paycheck is now sitting on top of that $5,000 that's been sitting there. Then the last thing that happens in this phase, which is again automatic, is that we are having money taken out of that checking account and automatically diverted into 2 IRA accounts. So being a couple, we can individually each have an IRA. So we each have an IRA, and we are maximizing both of those IRAs as well with taking money out of our triage account and putting it in weekly installments into that account. So this first phase is how we get to really pay ourselves first, is we're really living it. We're not just saying it, we're actually living it, is that we don't even see this money. It comes in and it goes out immediately, that we can't even live on it. We're doing it intentionally, that we don't even choose to live on that money. We live on whatever the result is that's sitting now into that triage account. And we spent 0 time thus far in our paycheck routine. So let's move to phase 2. Phase 2 is all about paying our expenses and making sure that all the transactions that came in, either income or expenses, that we are allocating those in the correct categories in our budget. So we have the money now that's sitting in our triage account. We had the threshold that was there, plus all the other net income that we received from our paycheck sitting into that triage account. The first thing that happens is we do have some of the things we just talked about, which are auto drafted expenses out. It doesn't happen every month, but there are some transactions that hit that take that money out of that account. We don't spend any time on those. We set them up once and we're done. So far we spent no time on our weekly paycheck routine, which is fantastic. The second thing that happens is occasionally, which I don't know the frequency of this, but we have to write checks. Like, who writes checks anymore? But people do, I guess, write checks. We only write checks for 2 scenarios.
Yeah.
One, where they charge us a credit card fee, or the second is they charge us an auto draft fee, which we are not paying fees to give anybody money. Like, it's just not happening. Mm-hmm. So we would rather keep that money ourselves, pocket ourselves, invest it. So there is occasion, maybe, what do you say, once a month?
Once a month. Otherwise, you use the Chase Marriott credit card. If you haven't seen our other video,
yeah.
That way you can rack up some free night stays.
Yeah. So that leads to the next piece, which is where we spend time. So this is the first now kind of place where we're really spending time on a weekly basis, which is paying off that Marriott credit card. So we have 2 credit cards, an Amazon Prime card to save on Prime. And then the second piece, the second card that we have is that Marriott card, and both are Chase cards. So it's super easy. I have a Chase app on my phone. It takes me 30 seconds. I open it up, pay, I'm done. It's maybe 30 seconds tops that I'm spending paying that off on a weekly basis. Yes, you don't have to pay it every week, but we want to make sure that at the end of every week, we have 0 debt. We're staying debt free. Mm-hmm. So at this point, we've been able to do that to make sure that, we have 0 debt. We've paid the stuff that came out auto drafted out of that triage account. We've now paid off our credit cards. And if we had to write any checks, keep us at debt free. So the last piece of this phase is, now that we've done that, we want to make sure that all the transactions that came through for our Chase credit cards, all those transactions through Amazon or through the Marriott card, anything that got auto drafted through our bank account, any transfers that were in or out, we want to make sure that in the app we use for our budgeting, it's called Empower Personal Dashboard. It's my favorite app I've ever had, probably. I love this app. It has all of our bank stuff. It has all our credit card stuff. It has all of our investment. I can see everything in one spot. And the beauty is, when these transactions happen, they automatically categorize, and they're pretty close. It's pretty good. It gets most of those transactions right. There's occasions, though, on a weekly basis where I will say, Cherie, what is this payment? What is this bill? What is this expense that we had? I see where it's from. I don't know what it is. And then I'll get the lowdown on what it is. Mm-hmm. I'll update it in the app real quick of what the categories are. And the beauty of that, if you do it on a weekly basis, it's not overwhelming. It's a couple minutes a week. And at the end of the week, there's a button on that app where you say budget. And at the end of the month, I can say, all right, for this month, here's how much total money we've spent. Here's all the categories, and every line item is tied to those that I can see at a high level. Here's what we spent on home improvement. Here's what we spent on, gas or groceries. I can see it in one quick view.
Yeah, you'll see in our other videos the top 5 non-discretionary and discretionaries. This is exactly how we're able to do that so easily.
Yep, and it takes a couple minutes a week to do this. And actually, I find it fun to go through those transactions and make sure that they're all categorized correctly. I don't know. It's like Tetris, I guess, for budgeting, but I find it fun where we can actually categorize those, and I can see it roll up at the end of the month. And then I take that, not in this, weekly thing, but at the result of this, at the end of the month, I'll take that and put it in a spreadsheet to trend things out to see where our averages are. But the way that we're able to tell, at least on a weekly basis, is right here is how we're doing it. Is these are automatically coming in and we're categorizing them by the end of the week. So that's the end of phase 2. Let's go to phase 3. All right, phase 3 is the best part. Why is it the best part? Because we're paying ourselves a second time. So in the first phase, we've already hit our savings rate. We've got where we want to be, and this is where we can boost that savings rate even more. So we have the threshold account where we've put our net paycheck into, we've taken money out to go to our IRAs already, we've paid our expenses off. So now the remaining money that's there, we look at it and say, what's in there over $5,000 threshold? Anything that's in there over that $5,000 threshold, we're first going to look at our emergency fund and say, do we take anything out of that in prior months that we need to fill it back up? If we do, then we will automatically divert the remaining money to be able to fill it back up to that emergency funds threshold. So that's what we would do first. We haven't had to touch that in a long time out of there. So the good thing is lately we don't, but again, if we ever had to, that's what we would look at first. And we'd suggest others do the same thing to make sure that you don't get into debt. If you can get out of debt, stay out of debt. That's how you stay out of debt, is have an emergency fund that if anything big happened that you need to replace, you have the funds for it. You don't need to open up a credit card or get a loan to be able to do it. So fund that, make sure that you're keeping it at a cap. The next thing we do is the rest of the money. This is the fun part, is we take that money, the rest of the money in that triage account over that $5,000 threshold and put it into a brokerage account, which we have at Fidelity, and it automatically goes into a money market position that pays 5%. So we might keep it there, but in most cases we won't, because the last thing we do is, and we spend a few minutes on this a week, which is we really look at the money that we put into our IRAs in phase 1, and then the money that we just put into that money market position at Fidelity, and we're going to look at investing it. So at our 401ks, which we talked about in phase 1, that are automatically funded, those are going into our Cornerstone account, which is an S&P 500 account at Fidelity. Automatically gets put in there. That's 50% of our funds go into that account. Out of all of our investments, we make sure we keep that about 50% on average of all the stuff that we have invested. The rest of it we have in much riskier assets. So this is where we would take the money that's in that money market account and then the money that's in the IRA, and we would then allocate those against those riskier ETFs, which for us are VGT and QQQ. So any extra money we have that we put into those accounts, we'll look, is it a good time to buy? Should we buy in? We buy into those. And we also buy into individual equities. We have 32 individual holdings that we do dollar cost average into some of those. So depending if they're down for multiple days in a row for a significant percentage that we know that it's a good time to buy in, we'll actually buy in a little bit into those. So that wraps up phase 3. We spent a couple minutes, maybe 2 to 5 minutes, 6 minutes, something like that in this phase.
So that's a wrap with our weekly paycheck routine. If you like this video, please kiss that like button. And if you like us, please think about subscribing.
And drop us comments. We'd love to hear what you're doing. Again, we say this in almost every video, but we really want to know what you're doing in these same rituals. What are you doing in your paycheck routine? Are you doing the similar type of things? You're automating it or you're not automating it? What are you investing in? We're just curious.
Until next time.
Thanks for watching.